Excuse me, sir, is this the Delta House?
Sure. Come on in.
They have cold beer and action on the game.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
It's time for the Degenerates Next Door.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Are you ready for some Week 3 debauchery? Let's go. My name is Jason Hammer. Rob Kendall, he's here as well. Rob, you had a good week last week.
Yeah.
Made money. 3-2 record. Listen, you take that winning record. You rip off your shirt like Hulk Hogan in 1985, and you run wild. Robomania, running wild after a winning weekend last weekend. Now, before we get to our plays of this week, let's talk about something near and dear to your heart. The Notre Dame football Fighting Irish. Again, if you're new to this program, Rob is one of those Notre Dame fans that's almost like a stereotype. Like, the only thing missing is you wearing the leprechaun hat and the green jacket. I mean, you've got all the other things lined up. The punchable face, the fight song. What the hell happened?
Well, okay, first of all, I'm what they call reversible jersey guy because during basketball I go to IU. So,
you're one of those people.
Yeah, just change the jersey guy. Well, they stink.
And nobody can say you're bandwagon because neither one of those programs have won dick in a long time.
Well, what happened is, as I've been telling you for this entire program and for years now, Marcus Freeman sucks as a coach.
All right, so I will give you credit where credit is due. You have been anti-Freeman before being anti-Freeman was cool. Brian Kelly was 54-9 in 5 seasons. And the fan base, and you know this, Rob, said he can't win the big one. I'm glad he left for LSU. Kiss my ass.
Yeah. And this is the thing. Notre Dame fans have unreasonable expectations. With the academic requirements and the fact that everybody's on national TV now, 10-2 is great. 10-2 and you're going to the Cotton Bowl, that's awesome. That's the level we should expect from Notre Dame.
Brian Kelly lost 9 games in 5 seasons. Marcus Freeman, who inherited a pretty good cabinet, has lost 9 games in 3, including Marshall, a bad Stanford team, and now Northern Illinois.
They do this stuff every year where they win some amazing game that you're like, oh my gosh, we're back. Raise up the echoes, 1988. Woo, buddy. Is that Lou Holtz out there on the sidelines? And then they lose to some obscure Goober Gomer team, and it happened again. And remember, we even talked about it on the podcast last week. I said, there's no way I'm giving 30.5 because this has the total makings of a Notre Dame trap game at home.
So with that being said, I assume that with Notre Dame going back on the road this week, you're fading the Irish.
Oh, you'd be wrong because I'm a glutton for punishment, Hammer.
Let's go.
The spread is 10.5. All right, so Notre Dame got it out of their system. And if I know the track record of Notre Dame, they have a great game, they have a terrible game, and then they're like, well, our season's over. Let's just go out and play for fun, and they do kind of okay. Well, kind of okay should be good enough against Purdue because Purdue stinks. STINX stinks, and they haven't beaten Notre Dame since 2007.
You and I were talking about the line during the Northern Illinois game because we saw what was going to happen here, right? And I texted you and I said, watch, there's going to be an overreaction on the line because Purdue beat the brakes off of a god-awful Indiana State team, and Notre Dame struggled. And the line is just 10.5. Listen, I hate to agree with you on anything because you know how much I really loathe you and despise you, not only as a person, but as a coworker. But you're right on this one. You're right. I like Notre Dame. I'm a buy low, sell high kind of guy. And Hudson Card in week 1, 24 out of 25 for Purdue, 4 touchdowns, but that was against Indiana State. I am going to sell that because Notre Dame's defense, last time I checked, a little bit better than the Fighting Sycamores of Indiana State. So I'm with you. I'm in on Notre Dame. Rudy's dad, your thoughts?
This is the most beautiful sight these eyes have ever seen.
You love that. That's one of your favorite lines in cinematic history.
Well, he's just such a scumbag.
Yeah, he is.
You're going to a football game.
Yeah.
You're with your kids and your family.
Yep.
And you say that is the most beautiful thing these eyes have ever seen. Rudy's dad is one of the great shitbags of all time.
Is he worse than Charlie's grandpa in the Chocolate Factory?
No. Charlie's grandpa is the #1 seed of movie villains, followed by Jenny Gump.
Yeah.
But Rudy's dad, never supporting him, Hell, Rudy's best friend died in his unsafe factory.
Yeah, that's true.
And never was proud of Rudy until, lo and behold, he made the Notre Dame football team. He's a bandwagon parent. He's a horrible human being. I'm surprised he's not the mayor of the city where I live in. All right, big game taking place in Madison, up in Wisconsin, where the locals remind you to drink Wisconsinably. Alabama, the Crimson Tide, rolling into Madison. Right now, Alabama is a 15.5-point favorite at Wisconsin. I've got a play on this coming up, but first, a man that's on a heater. He's a big, hairy American winning machine. He is the professional on this show of degenerates from followneverfade.com, David Stefanoff. David, we've had you on 2 straight weeks. Every show that we've had, you've picked a winner, my friend. What do we got this week?
This week, guys, first off, thank you, Hammer and Rob. This week I'm looking at Alabama, Wisconsin. This is going to be Wisconsin's probably biggest home football game since I've been born. I think right now the line's sitting at 16-51. The line opened up at 17, dropped down to 16. This is Luke Fickell's biggest game. It's going to be a tough game. Alabama, they've basically beat everybody pretty bad. They beat Western Kentucky, and then last week they had a little trouble with South Florida early. Wisconsin's played absolutely nobody. South Dakota and Western Michigan. Western Michigan got beat by 60 last week to Ohio State. I don't know. Vegas scares me with the line going from 17 to 16 here, but my play here in this game I think is going to be the over. Alabama is going to run the ball continuously. I think that's their strong point. Wisconsin defense is not very good this year. I do think they have some points here coming from Wisconsin side. They got a veteran quarterback, but Alabama here on offense is going to Milroe on quarterback. He's going to show out. I think they scored 63 and 40 the first 2 games. I think Alabama scores 40 in this game. I don't know if they cover the spread or not. It's kind of tricky. But I like the over 51 in this game. I think Wisconsin get a couple touchdowns, but I'm pretty sure Alabama's going to score at least 40 points this game. It's a mismatch on the offensive side versus Wisconsin's defense, and I think Wisconsin can maybe hang with them, home crowd. It's Luke Fickell's biggest game. If he wins this game, he'll go down in history probably Wisconsin's best coach. Barry Alvarez.
Right.
But anyways, I'm on the over 51 here, guys. I'm over the over 51. I'm staying away from the side. On paper, it looks like Alabama should blow them out, but Vegas said the line went down points, so I'm going to go with the over 51. Thank you again for everybody for your support. We had 2 winners last 2 weeks. Let's hope we can keep it going this week. I'm on all platforms, guys. Give me a follow, like, share, comment. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Check me out on Facebook every day. I drop gems. Message me directly on Facebook to sign up for VIP, guys. Have a great week. Thank you, Hammer. Thank you, Rob. And don't forget to follow Never Fade.
All right, so David, our professional handicapper from followneverfade.com, who's unbeaten on this show, he's going to ride the Lightning and take over. I like a side here. I am going to roll with Alabama. I'm going to roll with the Tide. Now, I've seen 15.5. David said he's seen 16. I've seen 15.5. And this is the importance of shopping around and finding the best number. Opening up multiple accounts. We talk about this all the time. You can't be a real degenerate if you're not opening up and putting a little money in multiple accounts. Get the best number. So I'm going to take Alabama minus 15.5 here. They kind of sleptwalk through 3.5 quarters against South Florida, who for whatever reason always seems to play them really well. But eventually, Bama's running game, Bama's line, they were more physical, and they finally wore down South Florida. I like the quarterback matchup here. I know David likes it as well. Milroe against the transfer from Miami, Tyler Van Dyke. Van Dyke is a guy that's not got a good deep ball. And if Alabama scores, and we think Alabama will score, and Wisconsin has to abandon the run, are they able to do it? I don't think they can. This just feels like a 34-17 type of game for Alabama. And last time I checked, my Ball State education says that's a cover. And maybe I'm a sucker here. Maybe I'm that guy that you would see on Cops or on Patrol Live when the police show up. It's a domestic dispute and there's been some violence going on, but yet for whatever reason, the people involved always stay in the relationship and say that they love each other. I'm like that with betting Alabama. I got my heart ripped out of my chest last weekend. They walked through 3.5 quarters. But here I am, back again with the Tide, Roll Tide. We're going to lay 15.5. All right, Rob, give me another play here.
All right, Hammery, we talk a lot about overreactions, and I'm a little worried about this, that it's an overreaction, but I'm going to go with it. And that is Texas giving 34.5 points. Now, that's a big number.
Right. Texas is the man right now, right? Like, you like wrestling like I do, right? What did Ric Flair always say? To be the man,
you got to beat the man.
And they went to Michigan and beat the defending national champions, the man, in their own house.
So here's the thing. They're playing a school called Texas San Antonio, which I didn't even know existed.
Is that the Roadrunners?
Yes, that is. Yes, thank you. And 34.5 is a lot. But they're Texas. They smoked Michigan. And here's the thing I liked about Texas. Even though they were smoking Michigan, Michigan decided to be a bunch of a-holes and try to do that onside kick bull crap at the end. They were going for 2. And we'll have this segment here in a little bit in our show. The coach, Sarkisian, was like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Yours is staying in the whole damn game.
Be honest, you thought that onside kick was going to backdoor screw you.
I did in that 2-point conversion. I was texting Hammer as my wife was driving. I said, these guys are going to F me, blah, blah, blah. Pass falls incomplete. Hey, I won. And then sure enough, I said, they're going to onside kick this. Yep, here it goes. So, hey, 34.5 is 34.5. It's a lot of points. But don't forget, Arch Manning is the backup who's really good for Texas. So even if they get up 30 and take Ewers out of the game, I still think Texas is going to score some points.
What I love about that story is it shows we are fans making bets here. We're not charging people money to call a stupid hotline.
Yeah.
We're not professional handicappers. We do the homework. We study this stuff, but we're like you guys. We're drinking beers. We're hanging out. We're betting on these games. And professional handicappers have to be somewhat professional, right? They've got to take the high road. I yell at a college kicker, and you're yelling in the car on an onside kick. And that's what I love about what we do here on this show.
My wife's like, you having fun with your friends? No, I'm not having fun with my friends. They're trying to screw me out of money.
Everybody listening right now can totally relate to that. 100%. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Ole Miss and Wake Forest. Rob and I each have a bet on this, but it's not the same bet. We'll break it down when we come back. This is the Degenerates Next Door. Back on the Degenerates Next Door, Rob and I each have a play on this game, but it's a different play. We're talking Ole Miss at Wake Forest. Ole Miss, 23.5 point road favorite at Wake Forest. The over-under is 63.5. Rob, what are we looking at?
Ole Miss, they are at Wake Forest, and they are a 23.5-point favorite. Now, you know I picked 2 guys that I think are favorites to win the Heisman this year I like. One is Ewers with Texas. The other is Jackson Dart with Ole Miss, because how could you bet against a guy named Jackson Dart? And he has played like he's playing for the Heisman. He's already thrown for 795 yards. Ole Miss is playing for points. They're playing for style. Lane Kiffin is an ass who won't take his foot off the gas. I like Ole Miss covering 23.5 at Wake Forest.
The ass who won't take his foot off the gas.
You like that?
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, now Ole Miss has scored 52 and 76 respectively. Granted, they aren't playing anybody good, but Wake Forest also falls into the category of not anyone good.
As Rob said, Lane Kiffin, the ass who won't take his foot off the gas. That's what we're banking on. Lane Kiffin would score 80 if he could. And that quarterback, Jackson Dart, is absolutely perfect for the offense that they want to play. I think Ole Miss here is good for around 43 points. I do. I think they're that good. They can put 43 up. But this is their first road game of the season. First game on the road, and Wake Forest can score. Wake Forest has a pretty good quarterback. I don't know if they make this a close game, but Wake Forest does enough to put the ball in the end zone. So I am going to ride the lightning. I'm looking at the over in this one. I think Ole Miss does the heavy lifting, but Wake Forest does enough to cash in over. Over 63.5. That is my play. Consider me Captain Over.
Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet your captain, Captain Over.
Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Captain, your navigator, Mr. Unger, and your first officer, Mr. Dunn.
Unger?
Over. Over. Done.
Over, under, unger, done. We're going to ride the lightning and go over. All right, Rob, we got a little prime time Big Ten action here.
UCLA hosting Indiana. That's a real primetime game.
What did we do to deserve that? Like, I thought watching that presidential debate would be punishment enough.
Yeah, that's bad.
And now in prime time on NBC, IU at UCLA in football.
Yeah, here's the thing. UCLA did me dirty against Hawaii because they barely beat Hawaii. And I don't know how good Indiana is. They ain't 77 each week good. And UCLA's defense is pretty good. And I kept going back and forth because IU is a 2.5-point favorite. And I'm like, can I really waste or gamble my hard-earned money on Indiana football? So I put it all together and I said, UCLA's defense isn't bad. Their offense stinks. I don't think IU's offense is that good. Certainly they haven't played a Big Ten school yet. I'm going under 46.5 points in this game.
Okay, Rob, I will see your under, and I will raise you another under. I'm looking at the backyard brawl, baby. West Virginia at Pittsburgh. West Virginia, a 2.5-point road favorite at Pitt. The over-under is at 60.5. Now, you look at Pittsburgh's offensive numbers here. They're averaging 41.5 points per game. But 55 of those came in week 1 against Kent State. And Kent State stinks. But they want to run the ball. Pittsburgh's got a kid named Desmond Reed. He's solid at the running back position. West Virginia, they want to run the ball. They weren't able to do it against Penn State, but a lot of teams cannot run the ball against Penn State. You can beat Penn State through the air. You can't beat them on the ground. So I think West Virginia is going to try to establish the run. Pittsburgh will try to establish the run. This is a nasty little rivalry. There are going to be flags. There are going to be fights. And I think some nerves actually may be at play early on. You add all of that up. I think the clock burns with the running game. I think it's physical, and that is a recipe for the under. I'm going under 60.5. The backyard brawl, West Virginia at Pittsburgh. All right. Rob, you told me you've got a pick on the Seminoles of Florida State.
Boy, this was a hard one because Florida State is a 6.5-point favorite against Memphis. Now, on paper, you're like, they got to be better than Memphis, right? I mean, it's Florida State. But then you've seen them play, and you've seen how bad their quarterback is, and you know how bad their defense is. And I don't know if Memphis is any good or not. They've played some schools like, I don't know what the names of these schools were, Troy and North Alabama. Who's learning?
Troy's not bad.
But they're not Florida State.
Well, Troy's got a winning record. You're right.
True. That's a good point. So I put it all together and I said, look, Memphis's defense they've only given up 8.5 points a game. Florida State's offense stinks. Florida State's defense has got to be better than Troy or whoever it was, North Alabama. I'm going under 52.5 points in this game.
Yeah, I don't see DJU all of a sudden waking up one morning and realizing he can put up 50 points.
Yeah.
He can put over 52.5 on the scoreboard. Because, again, Memphis is going to score. Florida State's going to score. But you're going to need somebody to do the heavy lifting here.
Yeah, and Memphis is averaging 39 a game. But against the competition, I just couldn't. I was like, man, my gut tells me I almost took Memphis on the money line. You know what the payout would be with that when you're getting 6.5 points? But then I thought, this will be the week Florida State will pull it together. So I thought, let's just cheer for some defense.
How pissed off would you be if you were somebody that spent a lot of money as a donor to Florida State, to the NIL program? They brought in DJU, knowing this kid's had one good game in his entire career, that COVID fill-in game against Notre Dame a number of years ago, and it hasn't worked anywhere else. Yeah. How would you feel if you put big money into that program at Florida State, and that's what you got?
Well, I'd be like my wife on everything she orders off Amazon. May I have a refund, please?
Refunds on Amazon are such a pain in the ass. Oh, my God.
She's always like, I've got to wait 2 weeks to help pay the rent because all my Amazon returns are slow getting deposited into my account.
True story. Great moments in Memphis history because Memphis is playing Florida State. I want to get your reaction on this. I've never told you this story.
Yeah.
I just want your reaction live on the air. There was a guy I knew in high school. And he came to me once and said, I might as well be from Memphis. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, spell Memphis, Memphis. He said, I make easy money and pimp hoes in style.
Wow.
Beech Grove High School.
I mean, that is
1994.
I mean, I'm not saying it's Edgar Allan Poe level of good, but that's pretty darn sharp. It's pretty darn sharp.
Make easy money, pimp hoes in style.
I might as well be Memphis.
Narrator.
But he never made easy money, nor pimped hoes in style. He was arrested.
And on that note, cue up the band. Let's do the Degenerate Special.
It's time for Hammer's Degenerate Special.
We nailed this last week. Let's do it again this week, shall we? Look, anybody can bet on Alabama at Wisconsin. Anybody can bet on the backyard brawl. But the real degenerates are putting their hard-earned money on Coastal Carolina at Temple. The Chanticleers at the Owls. Coastal Carolina is a 17.5-point road favorite. They are 2-0. And Temple, they are 0-2, and they stink. They're 0-2, but it's a hard 0-2. Temple last week lost 38-11 to the offensive juggernaut that is Navy. Navy. Temple averages 1.8 yards per carry, and they finished that game with 35 rushing yards on 20 carries. They allowed Navy to run for 297 yards, which, okay, that's what Navy does. But Navy also threw for 112 yards. They completed 5 out of 9 passing attempts. Navy completing 5 out of 9 passing attempts for over 100 yards. Temple is 124th in the nation in yards per game and 132nd in points per game. So they can't score and they can't stop anybody. Now, Coastal Carolina, they're not great, but they put up 55 against Jackson State. They put up 40 against William and Mary. I think they do just enough to cover 17.5 on the road at Temple, who may be the worst Division I team in America. Lay 17.5, Coastal Carolina. That is your Degenerate Special. All right, taking a quick timeout. When we come back, Rob Kendall's going to get nuts, and we will recap all of our bets. This is the Degenerates Next Door. Back on the Degenerates Next Door, I'm Jason Hammer. Rob Kendall is here, and I have a question for you, Rob.
Yes.
Are you ready to get nuts?
Yeah.
Are you ready to get nuts?
Let's do it.
Let's get nuts.
All right. Want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts. Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts, Rob. What do you got?
All right, well, here in a couple weeks, the President's Cup is going to take place, and that is golf, and that is the USA versus the world. Now, look, in terms of team competition, it's almost always a one-sided affair. The U.S. almost always wins. However, in the history of the tournament, there was one time that it ended in a tie. The international team has never actually won the President's Cup, but it has ended in a tie. And Hammer, if you look at the odds, you can bet in the President's Cup, and I'll have an actual firm bet here for you in a couple weeks. But for the purposes of this segment about getting nuts, about long shots, you can bet the USA to win, and you got minus odds. You can bet the internationals to win, and you got plus odds. But that doesn't really pay out what I'm looking for. You know what I want? I want money. And you know what pays out 16-1? A tie in the President's Cup.
Oh, ho, ho. 16-1, a tie in the President's Cup.
Yeah, so here's the thing. There's 30 matches. There's 30 points. So you would need it to end 15-15. And the great part about betting for a tie is you like both sides equally. Come Sunday matchups, you could be rooting for the Americans. You could be rooting for the internationals. You could be a patriot. You could be a traitor. It doesn't matter. Your money's on the line, and a $5 bet will pay you $80, Hammer.
All right. Want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts. Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
That may be my favorite segment that we do on any of these shows. The college show and the NFL show, which we will drop on Thursday. All right, let's recap what we are looking at here on the board. Rob and I both are on Notre Dame minus 10.5 at Purdue, a bounce back spot. So since Rob and I are both on that game, you should probably totally bet the mortgage on the Boilers. Bounce back, I'm with Bama. Bama broke my heart last week. They did not cover. They turned it on late. I just don't think Wisconsin can score. I'm not in love with Alabama. I just don't think Wisconsin can score. I'm laying 15.5 with the Crimson Tide. We are going over 63.5, Ole Miss and Wake Forest. Look, Ole Miss can score. You know they can put the ball in the end zone, but Wake Forest has a really good quarterback too. Wake Forest can score 63.5. We're going to ride the Lightning and go over. We're going to go under in the backyard brawl. West Virginia and Pittsburgh under 60.5 points. And the Degenerates special, the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina laying 17.5 against the god-awful Temple Owls team. Rob, recap the board.
Yeah, I'm with you again. Minus 10.5 versus Purdue. It's funny you said Ole Miss with that over because I almost took that one, which would have totally jinxed that one too. But I've got Ole Miss minus 23.5 at Wake Forest. Texas, I think they're the best team in the country right now, minus 34.5 versus UTSA. I love that you knew their mascot. That is a degenerate right there. If you know Texas San Antonio's mascot, you, my friend, are a degenerate.
I not only know the mascot, I've bet on multiple games with the Roadrunners.
I knew that. And by the way, anytime I see a North Texas Mean Green helmet pop up on my betting app, I think of you fondly because you won a lot of money on those guys a few years ago.
Dude, I rode the Lightning back in 2021 with the Mean Green.
Yeah, all right. Also, UCLA and Indiana under 46.5 points. And last, Memphis under 52.5 in the Florida State affair. Oh, and by the way, if you want to get nuts, you can get plus 1,600 a tie in the President's Cup.
All right, we will be back on Thursday. We have NFL action that night, big slate of games this weekend. Get those bets in, crack open a cold one, and hang out with your friends, the Degenerates next door. For Rob Kendall, I'm Jason Hammer. Good luck, everybody. May the odds be ever in your favor. Good luck.